Welcome to my second video, Get Lit Up, where I will share a small snippet of information on literature. Today, I'd like to try something different by melding the more traditional literary approach with a rising field called digital humanities. In this part, I'd like to introduce to you an English literature course that I took in the spring semester of 2019, titled Literature and Technology 2, Feminisms and Digital Humanities, taught by Professor Kyung-Suk Shin at Yonsei University. As the title suggests, we looked into the intersections of how feminist theory can be applied in digital humanities, particularly through annotating Elizabeth Barrett Browning's novel poem, Aurora Leigh. This is somewhat of an ambitious project because not only did we conduct a thematic feminist analysis of the poem, but also endeavored a feminist decolonization methodology through the technology we used. But we faced a couple sticky colonial issues. First, since the EBB, Elizabeth Barrett Browning Archive, had already uploaded a partially annotated version of Aurora Leigh, our annotation project focused mainly on books 2, 3, 4, 8, and 9 in order to carve out our own space from the already existing annotation. Thus, our classmates were aware and under the influence of the dominant academia annotation project prioritized over amateur students. Second, due to cost and technological deficiencies, we resorted to a relatively modest mode of Google Docs to do our annotation. That we turned to Google, the world's multinational technology company that monopolizes online services, shows that we were somewhat complicit with the neo-colonial capitalist power mechanism. After having studied feminist theories, digital humanities, and how some scholars have even combined the two, we did learn a few valuable insights while doing our own digital annotating. Despite relying on Google Docs, we were able to dismantle hierarchical structures inherent not only in technology, but also in the classroom as well. Thus, going into the annotation project with the awareness of entering a transnational, transcultural cyberspace opens new perspectives not just in terms of politics, but culture and temporality and spatial limitations. By using a new technology and intersecting it with feminist theory, I think technology could become a way to decolonize and reprogram education to be more inclusive, collaborative, and more. In this video and the next, I hope to share my experiences and thoughts as a non-Western student studying 19th century English poetry in contemporary Korea and cyberspace, as well as discuss ways to further merge feminisms, pedagogy, and technology into one setting. So, to share my experiences of this class with you, I've divided this video into two parts. First, I'll talk about one value learned called creating a new language or code, which I look to in three aspects: footnotes, comments, and language. Second, I'll talk about the second value learned, the coexistence of cyberspace and physical space, which will be elaborated in the next video. So stay tuned. Now, let's get lit up. When using any tool in a new environment, the group needs to establish working rules, a code of rules, or a common language for everyone. Though unlike a computer program language that requires more guided, expert learning, Google Docs is much easier because it is created for beginners to maneuver their way through the given tools without need for external help. Moreover, it is written in simple, everyday English and is a mainstream digital tool that our classmates were already familiar with and have had used at least once before coming to class. Of course, that is not to say that our class began annotating immediately under complete mutual understanding of the working language. Professor Shin had given us very loose guidelines in the beginning of our project. One, that we should write our initials to indicate which person had written what, and two, to use footnotes for most of our annotations. Gradually, however, we began to make our own rules, such as color-coding our initials so that we could better differentiate whom it belonged to. I started highlighting my initials in blue, which was then picked up by Tyler, until the majority of the class had selected a color for themselves that was distinguishable from one another's. Second, we explored other functions on Google Docs as well. In particular, we used the comments section to accentuate visibility and importance. Here, Taeyun uses a comment to visually emphasize that the epigraph in Robert Browning's My Last Duchess is a narrative convention that provides additional information for reading the whole poem. Comments are also used for a meta-visuality element, to link the text to other visual sources. For the poem The Lady of Shalott by Lord Alfred Tennyson, Taeyun indicates pre-Raphaelite paintings inspired by Tennyson's narrative to add to our discussions of the poem. Unfortunately, Google Docs does not allow us to insert actual visual images in their comments. Thus, Taeyun resorts to pasting the links of the paintings, which is ironically in written form. Such limitations of comments places us into a mechanism of visualization politics. That writing substitutes the actual picture image may reflect the problematic hierarchizing of words over pictures. As comic book artist Scott McCloud said, despite pictures and words coexisting with equal significance on a page, there is a widespread feeling that the combination of words and pictures is somehow base or simplistic. In this way, the infrastructure of Google Docs leaves no room for the student or amateur editor to annotate with anything other than the provided text-oriented language. Many students also utilize the visuality advantage of comments to post discussion questions. The fact that Google Docs Comments also has a resolve button seems to underscore the question-answer dialect as well. Once the question is answered, it can be marked as resolved. For example, I had a simple question regarding Tyler's footnote on how a particular passage in Aurora Leigh could be a biblical feminist interpretation, which is then resolved by Jace's digital participation. However, no one ever used the resolve function during our annotations. This may be because the resolve button makes the comment disappear, though it can easily be made visible again. So although we answered these questions, we still did not erase another person's comments or footnotes. Rather, we created a dialogue or a discursive footnote or comment section where we reply to our classmates' annotation and amalgamate our answers under the same footnote. Here, Jace has replied to Tyler's footnote number 6, Taeyun answers my question from footnote 7, and I reply to Minsong's tentative annotation on the notion of fixed literary canon. This can be seen as an aspect of decolonizing technology in that even though we have the power to erase someone's history, we choose not to erase it. Instead, we would allow everyone to participate in changing the collaborative annotation record. On a level at least, everyone was partaking in a post-colonial decolonization experience inside the classroom. Not only did we create a working language through comments and other given functions, but language itself also became flexible and dynamic. First is the usage of the so-called natural languages of humans, in this case the usage of English and Korean. Especially in the later part of our annotations, some classmates tentatively began to use both languages. As seen here, Taeyun replies with a "k-k-k" to my footnote, which is the Korean internet slang that signifies a literal laugh, like the English translation of haha. Other instances of internet colloquial culture filtered into our Google Docs as well, including emoticons like a smiley face, or at someone to reference or address a classmate online, a language tool derived from social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. In accordance to this inculturation of SNS mannerisms, Tyler also mentioned outside of class that she wished there was a like button used in Facebook and Instagram to support or show appreciation for someone's annotation. Indeed, though our later annotations still pertain to academic content, they included an affective element as well, such as "good point" or "that's a great explanation, I like it." According to James P. Purdy's explanation of digital humanities projects, digital archives ask us to rethink what constitutes scholarly production as they blur the lines between academic and non-academic texts. In digital spaces, the boundaries around these categories become fluid and text moves more freely between them. In this way, our digital project became more tolerable of other online cultures and language use, synthesizing it into our academic annotations. But what I found most interesting from everything that I've just explained to you was that the creation of this working language was never done in actual words. To use a social contract analogy, if our class was in the process of creating a society in cyberspace, we never got to the stage of creating a terminated social contract. Or if we did, it was never in one moment passing a threshold concept, but an ongoing, elongated contract or code. We never directly talked about whether footnotes should look a certain way, but since Google Docs allows us to see what users are doing in live time, we could see our classmates color coding their footnotes, so we would begin to color code our footnotes. And you could visibly see from which point a person started something and how it caught on. From this, our classroom created a democracy, an ad hoc democracy, in which we all participated in something none of us knew how it would play out. Language became dynamic, changing, and constantly in flux, but they were all unspoken rules. These unspoken rules are differently interpreted by everyone. We don't talk about how to use those tools, but let everyone use them as they see fit. And perhaps because it was within a small group of 7 people, we could create this idyllic society on our annotation project and still create a roughly coherent and growing corpus of literary analysis. So perhaps we started with colonial conditions, but through technology, we could create a decolonial society in cyberspace. And I'd be super interested in what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching the second video of Get Lit Up. An earlier version of this video was presented as a conference paper at the Hashtag Digital Humanities Conference held on May 24, 2019 in Vancouver, Canada. I would like to thank the audience members for their insightful questions and comments, much of which I was able to further ponder upon and incorporate into this paper. Moreover, my fellow classmates and Professor Shin frequently shared their experiences and thoughts during and after the annotations project, to which I owe a large portion of this paper's contents as well. I used the first names of our classmates to give credit where it is due, and I am currently in works of developing both this paper for publication as well, so wish me luck. This video was made as part of a video series created by students for the Brain Korea BK21 Plus project at the English Literature and Language Department of Yonsei University, South Korea, called Yonsei Digital English. For more information about BK21 Plus, please click the link below.